Hey guys, I want to welcome you tonight to the seventh annual Bringing Out the Leaders STS Enterprises panel discussion. So, we have a great group of people here for you tonight. I think that you will enjoy them. They're ready for some questions. They're ready to kind of talk to you about how they've been living life during the pandemic and now after how the pandemic is kind of opening back up the world. So, I'm going to let each person introduce themselves and then I'll come back and introduce myself as your moderator. I'm going to start with Nikki Gibbs here. I'll let her introduce herself and give you the energy, all the energy she has tonight. I think you're going to enjoy them. Let's go, Nikki.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Nikki Gibbs. I am in the nonprofit field. I'm the executive director for Step Ahead Foundation.
Jeremy, we'll go with you next.
Definitely. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Dr. Jeremy Whitaker. Excited to be with you all this evening. I work in the nonprofit management field as well as higher education leadership. I currently have the pleasure of serving as the Chief Operating Officer for ABCs of Life Incorporated.
Ina, we'll take you next.
Hello, greetings. My name is Ina Esco. I am the creator of Ivy Multimedia. This is a multimedia company that focuses on developing content and talent for all streaming platforms. I am a radio personality. I've been in radio for about 22 years now, and I am the host of the Verbally Effective podcast. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ina. And Steven, we'll round it out with you.
And you're going to put me out there. Good evening to everyone. My name is Steven Sanders. By my day job, I'm a digital marketing advisor for FedEx Services. But outside of that, I do a lot of work inside the community. Sit on the board for the Memphis Scholars Charter School. I work with Fogelman College of Business on a complete professional program, and I'm an adjunct professor at Southwest Tennessee Community College. And I'm a change agent. I'm just out here trying to make a difference.
Thank you so much, Stephen. And my name is Delilah House. I'll serve as your moderator tonight. I am a regional training specialist with MAA. It's a property management company here in Memphis, Tennessee. And I'm also the owner of Delilah Shantae. It is a life and leadership coaching business where I do some consulting as well. Super excited to have this group of people with us on this panel. Things that already have energy together, they connect really well. So they're going to answer some questions for you tonight. So if you are not already sharing this on Facebook or on YouTube, make sure you share it with your friends. They need to hear it as well. Go ahead and share, like as well, and then connect with the panelists after as well. So guys, are you ready for the first question for tonight?
Absolutely.
Let's go.
All right. So, Dr. Jeremy Whitaker, because I did not call you doctor when we first came on, what was life for you like before the pandemic started?
Well, before the pandemic, life was great, of course. We didn't have to go outside with masks on everywhere we went. Social distancing wasn't necessarily a term that was used often. So, of course, for all of us, similar to everyone on the panel and the students who are joining us this evening, life was quite different in regards to those aspects, but not so much as far as business. And of course, we'll talk about that here later. But the largest difference was definitely, the things we're having to do now to stay safe.
Thank you so much. And so, Ina, I'm going to come to you next. How was it for you?
Wow. You know what, Delilah, I was moving and shaking pre-COVID. Do you hear me? I was actually about to jump on a plane to go to the South by Southwest conference. We were selected to present on the podcast stage. So me and my producer, we were super excited. I'm talking about, we got the call on March 11th or 12th, I believe, that they were canceling. So, that was a huge, I would say, disappointment, right? That they actually canceled South by Southwest. Pre-COVID, I was in the actual studio talking with my guests. I could touch them. We didn't have to social distance. Things were just much more different. A lot of things were going really fast. And when COVID hit, it all came to an abrupt stop. So we had to pivot, right? So that's my life pre-COVID.
Ina, I definitely can feel you. I remember I think we shut down like March 13th. I was just coming back in from DC. The next week, they were like, a lot of people tested positive in the Capitol. We were just there. So it's like, ooh, what do we do now? Like, what just happened to us? And so just having that first like flight coming out of DC, coming back into Nashville was very scary. So I can definitely see how that was. But, my father was like, "Are you sure you're gonna go up there? It's getting a little different." I was like, "It's getting a
Yeah,
little different here too. I'm gonna take this trip before I can't take any more." So, but yeah, I
exactly.
definitely understand. So, Nikki, how about you before COVID?
Kind of along the same lines, except for the fact that I had one of our biggest fundraisers of the year literally on the day when everything shut down. So everyone was still kind of up in the air. Is this something real? Should we take it serious? Am I really going to lose this much money and not knowing how long it's going to last? So I had to make a real quick decision to decide to shut everything down. And pre-COVID, I was a hugger. I mean, I'm a social butterfly. I enjoy family. I enjoy friends. I enjoy going out to eat and just that social aspect of being out, touching my staff, the community, and just the people that I love. So just being in this little isolation bubble at home, it started out good, but then I started to miss that social interaction. But the first part of it, oh, I was just happy. I had some time. I wasn't running from place to place, but it finally settled in. You're missing people, and you're definitely missing hugs and connecting with people and meeting new people.
Can definitely understand that. So, Stephen, how did you feel, or what were you doing before?
Yeah, I mean, like many of you said, I was moving and shaking. Like, so the week the pandemic popped off, I was out supporting Memphis Black Restaurant Week. So that Sunday, Monday, I was touching every Black restaurant I'm going. I'm meeting people, shaking hands, kissing babies, eating food. And then right after that, I went to Houston, and I was in Houston for like 4 days, and that's literally when the pandemic popped off. Like, it popped off while I was in Houston, and so I drove back. I think it was like that Thursday or Friday, and when I got back, we were in the house. And so my life pre-COVID was a lot of running around, a lot of moving and shaking. I've been, active in the community. And so, I mean, before COVID, it was going to physical meetings and actually being at board meetings and actually going to city council meetings and, being in places. And, I was moving around a lot, and, kind of like what Nick was saying, when it first popped off, I was kind of relieved. I was like, okay, I get to sit down for a minute, I get to catch my breath, rejuvenate. But then about 2-3 weeks in, I was like, okay, all right, where's the interaction? Where's the activity? And I got a little sick. But now, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, I was good pre-pandemic, and then I had to figure the thing out.
So I'm glad you because that's going to kind of push us into the next question I asked. So at first, when when it first shut down, it was like, oh, we're only going to be shut down for 2 weeks. And you're like, okay, we can do 2 weeks, right? We can get this. Everybody probably needs some rest. We're getting ready, to get summertime's coming up, springtime. That's when everybody's traveling. So you need this rest anyway. Well, 2 weeks passed, and they're like, okay, well, yeah, that's not going to really work. It's getting worse and worse. What are we going to do now? So when you got to about that 3 weeks, that month in, what did you think? Where were you at? And I know some of you said, hey, I was okay at the beginning, but then it got a little real. So when you really realized that things were shut down, you didn't know when they were going to open, they couldn't give you a timeline, where did your thought process go then? And I'm going to let whoever wants to jump in first go there.
Hey, can we talk about tissue for just 1 second? Can we just talk about no tissue? Okay, that was the biggest thing. I remember sitting in my house thinking, what am I gonna do? Like, what am I gonna do? There's no tissue anywhere. Like, about a month in, I was panicking. Like, I'm not a hoarder. Okay, I don't keep just stuff just stocked up. And so when stuff shut down, I was like, oh Lord, here we go. I was, it hit me really quick that, like, okay, this is real. Because remember, like, restaurants weren't open, so it wasn't no DoorDash, it wasn't no Uber Eats. So if you didn't have it in the kitchen to cook, you were just hungry. And I'm not a cooker, so I was a little hungry a few days. So, I mean, it hit me in a real way about a month in. And then, I started working from home, which, was cool at first. But then, like, there was this expectation of, like, you never off work type of thing. And so it was, I'm taking calls at 6 a.m, 9 at night. I'm kind of always working. And so about a month in, I was a little shaky. I ain't gonna lie. I don't know about y'all, but I was a little nervous.
So Steve, my experience was similar to yours, but a little different. When you have children and you're at home and you're running the business, I was the cook, I was the janitor, I'm the principal, I'm the dog walker, I'm the boss, and then I'm just the servant, because I have to make sure that my child has everything he needs, except for the one he truly needed was the tech person. So that was the one area where I lacked. And the cooking, Steve, That ain't never been my area. So I had to sit down and really start cooking for my son because he would call his grandma, he called everybody. My mama ain't feeding me. Now I got to worry about DCS. So Steve, I was ready. I was ready to get out of the house. I was ready to get back to DoorDash and Uber Eats. And I channeled my inner grandmama and I learned how to cook a little bit. But it was hard. It was very hard because I've never been in a space like that. And then, we love our children to death, but I tell you, me and the Lord with a T, we had to have a moment because you're confined in that space with your child, with your dog, with your staff, and you don't have any interaction. And if we be honest with ourselves, we all should have had a new appreciation for the teachers, for the administrators, and for everybody who's pouring into our children. Because if it's hard for us to do it, just imagine how hard it is for them to do it. So that was my newfound appreciation, Delilah.
I want to, I'm sorry. I want to
No, go ahead, Ina.
I want to piggyback on what she just stated about the cooking. Like, I am a cook, but I had never cooked like that in my life. And, the expectations of everyone in the house looking at mama like, okay, what we eating? And y'all eating all day though. Like, it's just not breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Y'all want snacks. Y'all want me to be the short order cook like at Waffle House. No. So dealing with the kids' virtual learning, OMG, that was difficult because I had to start working from home myself. That was totally different for me because I had to develop a routine for not only me, but my kids. And you got to put their food in there as well. So that was, a total, we had to figure it out, right? So, not going where you want to go, like not getting in the car, being able to go where you want to go. I did enjoy I would say like that first 2 weeks, but then it kind of set in and it's like kind of scary. It was kind of scary, like, well, what's really going to happen? Then you fear for your kids, you fear, you want to talk with family, you want to see your family, but you don't want to get them sick, especially the older people in your family. So, that's where the mental thing kind of kicks in. So yeah, I was short of the cook. I'm still short of the cook.
It's all right. You got an amen corner right here behind you.
Yeah.
Look, I should have hit you up and then came and picked up a plate or something because
Hey, I should have started selling plates out of here. I promise.
So Jeremy, how was it for you?
Similar, but I'm a tad bit of a homebody, I must admit. So a lot of for me was just kind of adapting to, like I said, not being able to go pick up things, being able to get out. But really, I went into kind of handyman mode. All the home improvement projects I should have worked on a long time ago, I got a chance to do those. I'm a father as well, so I had to create me a spot that was kind of my spot, my piece, and I was able to do it. But kind of on that mental health aspect of it, I think it played on all of us. Just that interaction piece. But with me working so heavily in the field, dealing with individuals who have diagnosis involving mental health, I was able to kind of implement what I train and what I teach all the time as far as coping. And, even my own mom, she's like, don't come over here. I'm high risk, take it. So with that being the case, those things, all of our lives change, there's no way around it. But, I think it really puts us in a position now where those small things that we took for granted, we no longer will moving forward. And so I'm so appreciative of where we are now. So yeah, that's pretty much how it changed my situation.
Yeah, I just real quick, I just want to say I put my house on the market in February of 2020. So what Dr. Jeremy was saying around the handyman, my house got put on the market. I started getting the offers, but then I had to do work on the house. But because of the pandemic, I couldn't call nobody and tell them to come do stuff. So I'm on YouTube and I'm Googling every day. How do I change this? How do I do this? So I ended up doing a lot of handiwork around my house. And it's funny you brought up the mental space about kind of what we all went through. I think one thing that hit everybody is I think we realized that we are social beings, right? So we created societies because we are, as human beings, we are social. And so to get into a box where you cannot socialize and cannot interact, that took an immediate toll, I think, on at least all of my peers that I was talking to at the time. Like, we all felt it. And so, we all had to do like the Zoom call, happy hours and stuff, just so we could feel some sense of connectivity. after that first month or so. But yeah, it was.
Yeah, and then we are actually going to get over to that mental health part. And so, like, for me, I traveled, I think, probably 90% of the time before the pandemic. And so I was now having to buy groceries that I didn't really ever go to the grocery store. I didn't see like a $200 grocery bill. And it was just me. I mean, I don't even have family here. Like, at least, like, I mean, my family is 4 hours away, like my closest family members. And so it was a lot different and just being set in the house. And I work in property management. We're out and about all the time. And so just sitting in the chair, just there, like I had to order like an office chair because I didn't have an office chair. I wasn't here working. And then started had to go to a chiropractor because I was sitting in the chair too much. Like it was just a lot going on. So I definitely understand that. And we were actually going to roll into that mental health piece because I think that's the part that got a lot of people. Not only was it that we're sitting here, we're isolated from each other, we're used to touching people, we're used to being out and about. Like, 'cause, I mean, just face it, like we all have become so busy that you didn't realize what sitting at home for some people were. Dr. Jeremy said he is an introvert more so. So he sits at the house. Well, let me not say introvert, but you sit at the house a little bit more. And so but for some people, they were always out. Like, you're a radio personality. So it's like you are definitely like out and about with the spirit of like just having fun. And so coming, just being in the house and sitting there, that does play a mental part. And on top of that, you also have people that were losing people because we can't like neglect the fact that we lost so many people during COVID. And then we lost so many stars during COVID. It's like, wow, what's going on next, right? And so I think that mental part started to become an issue within the Black community and all communities, right? And then on top of that, you have all the social injustice issues that were just, it was like pile on pile on pile on what we are going through during this year. So when you think about that, how did you play a part in that mental health? Were you able to help other people? Did you have to sit back and help yourself? I mean, you can be transparent if you want to be on like how it really played a part on you. And so Ina, Nikki, do you guys want to jump on that first? Or well, Stephen, he's ready to go on that one. So I'm gonna let
Lost my father unexpectedly to COVID. And when I heard Ina say, we had to think about family and not wanting to get them infected, you think about that. My dad was healthy, all but he had lost his eyesight, probably at an early age and suffered with, losing it. It progressively got worse over time. But around the time COVID hit, he just suffered with the loss of his sight. But my son and I did everything we could to keep him safe by not going to see him as much, keeping our mask on. And the one thing that I tried my best to protect him from was ultimately the thing that took him out. And it wasn't like I had a warning. It wasn't like, there was anything other than he got sick 2 weeks later, my father died. I lost 6 other family and friends during this year. So God has stretched me. He has also connected me to community in a way that I did not know that I needed. So when we say we need each other, you don't realize how much you need people until you actually allow them into your vulnerable space. And I didn't have that vulnerable space before the pandemic. I could do it on my own. If I couldn't do it, I'll find somebody to do it. And if they can't do it, let me think about it and I'll make it work. That was my mentality. So God had to stretch me, he had to humble me, and he had to connect me in a way that my community started to become my what I needed to get through this moment. So, I mean, this has changed my life. Losing a parent, I don't wish it on anybody, but if my experience can help me to give someone else strength through it, then it wasn't in vain.
That's a really good point, Nikki. Thank you for being open and transparent about that because I think that's one of the biggest parts of mental health is that when we're transparent and we're open and we're honest, that's when other people grow. We also grow. Just like you said, you were humble, you had to be stretched, and you being willing to be stretched because that's important too. And we can't overlook that fact of you being willing to be stretched. And then again, you being vulnerable enough not to just connect with your community outside, but also share it tonight because that's another vulnerable moment and you can't overlook that. And I think that's one of the biggest things when it comes to mental health is we have to be appreciative of when someone is being vulnerable. Absolutely. Because you don't know who that's helping. We don't know who's on live tonight that needed to hear that. we don't even know if one of the other panelists needed to hear it, right? So thank you for that. If nothing else, I want to say thank you for sharing that with us. So Stephen, I think you had came off mute.
Yeah, no, I mean, shout out to Nikki for taking me to this place. So, you know, I lost my mom a couple of years ago, and I never forget last year during the pandemic. It was May 2nd, 2020. I had the worst anxiety attack I've ever had in my life, to the point where I thought I was having a heart attack. So I drove myself to the hospital about 3 in the morning, and I'm like, y'all, I'm having a heart attack. And they hooked me up to everything, did all the tests. They're like, no, sir, you're good. You're fine. We think it's just anxiety. So it was on May 5th that I went to the doctor, and I went to my PCP, because I was convinced that they didn't know what the hell they was talking about. I'm like, y'all don't know what y'all doing. I had a heart attack. So I went to my primary care, got diagnosed with anxiety. Because normally around Mother's Day is when, you know, my anxiety would tend to peak, but I never felt anything like this. So the only thing I can kind of equate it to is with everything that was going on, and, you know, with Mother's Day coming up. And so, you know, she you know, put me on this medicine called Booster. And then she also connected me with a therapist. So I started therapy beginning of June 2020, and I have not stopped. And Delilah, you mentioned it, you know, with everything that happened last year, not only with the pandemic, you know, and everything that brought, you know, losing friends, family members, you know, folks getting sick, but everything that was going on in our country with the election, and with the social injustices, and everything that we as a community had to deal with. You know, I can honestly say that therapy is the thing that got me through a lot of that. You know, having someone that I can go and talk to every 2 weeks. I tell anybody who will listen, that's the best money I spend every month. I go to my therapist every 2 weeks, and it's a bill that I look forward to paying. And when you talked about, you know, if we did anything to help people, one of the things I'm most proud about over this last year is I've gotten a lot of my friends to go to therapy. And, you know, and it's, for me, it's about normalizing the conversation, and helping people realize that we have to treat mental health the same way we treat physical health. Like, you don't just go to the doctor when something's wrong. You go to get a checkup, you go to get blood work to make sure everything's okay. We have to treat mental health the same way, in that you just go just to make sure everything's okay. Even if you're not feeling something, like, you know, one of the worst things we can do is wait until we have an episode or have something, and then go see a therapist, or then find someone to talk to. You know, it's good to just have somebody that you can go and talk to about the things that you're struggling with, that may be subconscious. You know, there are the thing that, you know, I want people to understand is, you know, you're holding on to stuff that you don't know you're holding on to, and you're not gonna know until you unpack it. You know, going through therapy, I've realized there are things that I dealt with in my childhood that I completely blocked out, forgot about. It didn't happen until I got into therapy. And so, you know, from a mental health perspective, that was the biggest thing that I did throughout the pandemic, and I continue to do. And I don't ever see me stopping doing it, because there's always something that's going on. And I think, you know, for me, in helping other people is, you know, making them okay with the fact that it's okay to go talk to a therapist. You can, you know, you can have Jesus and a therapist. You know, these two more than one thing can be true. And, you know, that's my biggest thing.
Definitely. I like to chime in if you don't mind. Two things, Nikki and Stephen, I just commend you all for removing that mask, unmasking, because a lot of us, you know, a lot of people, we navigate with these masks on. And I think this is the perfect platform to create a safe space where we can be vulnerable, be transparent. And I think it's important that we highlight, you know, I see this every day, and having a chance to travel our country. I go to different colleges. Lately, I've been working specifically a lot with athletes and athletic departments at the collegiate level, which is some of my research in that area. But I tell people all the time, you know, the body is not able to go where the mind can't take it. They're connected. It's very, very important that we understand that. And the average age of onset for anxiety, for paranoia, for schizophrenia, for eating disorders, it varies on an individual basis. And so even dealing with grief, what does that really look like? You know, you have some days where when you wake up, you're just not okay. You know, and it can be the smallest thing that reminds you of that loved one. Similar to many people, you know, I've lost loved ones throughout this pandemic, through the COVID. And one thing we've learned about death is the world goes on. Your world stops, but everyone else's world continues to go. So how do you cope with that? How do you navigate that? And my brother Stephen, man, I salute you to hear a brother, a Black man promoting therapy, removing that stigma that's associated with it. And, our foundation is fighting to create more safe spaces here in our community where we can come together as brothers and talk about these things, where it's okay to not be okay. You don't have to be tough so all the time. And, you think about it and you talked about your childhood, adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, those things that you keep putting Band-Aids on that really need surgery, right? And so as you continue to navigate that journey, now you're the responsible husband, you're a father, but you never learn how to deal with your own issues, your own grief, your own disappointments with what was dealt to you and things of that nature. So to hear this conversation be so empowering about seeking help and knowing that it's okay is very important. And I want to share one more thing I think is important. We're actually in partnership with the state of Tennessee on a grant where it's completely free if you live in Tennessee, but we provide an actual certification that's national called Mental Health First Aid. We have a youth module and we have an adult module. We've been able to partner with Arlington Community Schools, Shelby County Schools, a list of other faith-based organizations to ensure that people are empowered to know how to assess if someone is having a life-risking situation, if someone even considering suicide and things like that. So how do you recognize those signs and symptoms? And then how do you go from recognizing it to being that support person like Stephen talked about that can refer someone to help? I might not be a licensed psychologist, but I should be able to recognize those signs and symptoms and be your support person to get you to someone that's professional. And I think that's a challenge there. So I do want to put that out there because oftentimes people don't know about their resource. You get certified in it. It comes with a book. Even we're able to do it virtually now as well. And it's free of charge if you live in the state of Tennessee. So we need more people comfortable asking their partner who looks like he got it together. She looks like she got it together because she always smiles and she's a socialite. But when she's at home, he's at home and they're by themselves and that mask is removed, they might seriously be considering, is it worth it? Is life worth it? And we can look at the suicide rate. It has spiked since the pandemic. And so, particularly for minorities. And so with that being the case, I think it's important that we continue to advocate for it. Stephen, Nikki, Ina, and Delia, and be advocates for saying, get into therapy. If you're not comfortable one-on-one, there's group options out there and creating safe spaces that are non-judgmental, that are confidential for us to be able to do things. And I'll add to that something that I've been able to kind of incorporate into my mental health journey over the past 3 months alone, besides just training, is getting into things that are non-traditional, like yoga, like music therapy, things that, that are dope, that are cool to do. And the deal is, until you push yourself beyond those traditional limits, you don't know the benefits of it. Even down to fasting, being disciplined enough to fast sometimes. So all those things play a role in what we call the 8 dimensions of wellness. And that includes your emotional, your financial, your spiritual, your occupational, your physical. All those things are connected. So think about it. If you look in the mirror, you don't like what you see, it impacts your emotional. If you look at your bank account and it's not hitting like you wanted to hit, that impacts something else mentally. And so it's important to understand when we look at the 8 dimensions of wellness, which is kind of our organizational approach, when one of those factors is off, it is directly connected to other things in your life. And so when you're able to go to therapy, you're able to unpack those things with someone who can give you some constructive advice and some strategies that can empower you to move past that.
Okay. Well, I'll close this one out with, from a mental standpoint, for me, what helped me get through this, kind of draining situation was continuing to do what I love, and that's podcasting. I thank God for technology, and I thank God for nature, because those are 2 things that continue to keep me going. Just being able to, get on the Zoom with my Verbally Effective podcast guests and other podcast guests. And what the Verbally Effective podcast is all about is talking about someone's journey. So you already know I'm going to hit on how did things change when the pandemic hit. So there we go. We're sharing some of the same experiences. We're talking through things. So for me, that has helped me to continue weekly to talk to other people and listen to how they've been coping and kind of talk through some of our experiences. Also, nature, as of last summer, I have developed the green thumb, and mentally it has helped me. Do you hear me? Like, I can go out in my yard and work on my flowers, work in my flower bed, and it just gives me peace and calm, and to look at something grow from a seed to a beautiful flower and just see it, everything just progress throughout the season. Like, that has helped me. Like, I went to Lowe's today to get some more flowers to continue my gardening journey. So from a mental standpoint, like I said, I thank God for technology and nature. That has helped me from a mental standpoint.
Let me chime in on that with you, Enid. Bartlett Nursery can help you with that as well. Y'all, I couldn't even boil an egg or keep a plant alive, a peace lily alive. And those are the easiest to keep alive. But during this pandemic, I've been thriving like Miss Parker out there in their yard. I'm planting everything that'll grow. I'm watching it. And it's a beautiful thing. And I look at it as this mirror in life, since we're talking about mental health. You're actually taking the time to be patient with something, to see when the needs are being met, to watch your plants and to grow them and give them what they need to grow and succeed. Much like we do our children, we do our staff, and we do with the people we love. It's taking that same energy and giving it to our plants. And I would say this last thing about mental health, what I implemented on my staff is we have a safe space before the staff meeting to unpack everything that's going on in the world, in their personal lives, or just have a safe space to say random things that you're thinking. And I also told my staff at this moment, if you need a mental health day, you don't owe me an explanation. Use your time. That's why it's there. So during this pandemic, rather than micromanage, we all need grace, and we all need a space where we can regroup and get out of the everyday hustle of feeling like we gotta meet expectations. Take a day off. If I'm not good, my staff is not good. And if my staff isn't good, none of us work properly. So I just made sure that I give the same grace that I want to be extended in that mental health space.
Thank you guys so much for that. I think all of those things are so important that we make sure that we pay attention to. I do want to I asked Dr. Jeremy to give some websites, because I think it's important that when we are having these conversations and we have people listening at that time, that we go ahead and give people websites and ways and resources, because they are open to it right now. They're listening to it right now. And so 2 of those websites are betterhelp.com, and that's BETTERHELP.com. And then Psychology Today, PsychologYToday.com. So that's betterhelp.com, and then Psychology Today. I'm sure if you want or need a resource, if you reach out to anyone on the panel, we'll try to get you a resource as well. I don't want to overlook the fact of being able to give those resources when we have that open ear for it, because I think it's important. Just like everyone else on the panel, I have my own therapist. I've actually had my own battle with suicide myself when I was in high school. So it happened all before the pandemic. So I know how easy it is. It's just like some of the other people have mentioned, when you have that spirit on you, it's really hard to break it. And you have to work really, really hard to get that off. People will look one way in the front, and on the back end, you have no idea what they are going through privately, because they are trying to hold themselves together for other people. Because, you always talk about that strong person, and I'm sure the people on the panel here are the strong people, right? And so those strong people need checking on too. And so I really like to make sure that we open that up. I don't know how many of you guys are on Clubhouse, but I am on Clubhouse. I'm actually a part of a group called Black Men in Mental Health, where the majority of the guys on that panel are in mental health and they're therapists themselves. And I'm actually just their moderator. And I just got connected with the group, and I'm, an advocate for mental health. I believe everyone needs a therapist. Like Stephen said, you need therapists and you need Jesus. You need both of them. They go together. That's why Jesus allowed us to have some therapists out here. Okay. So that's what they're for. You still go to the doctor, so you need to go to your therapist. And that is something that you need. It needs to be ongoing. No one can tell you when to stop going to the therapist. And I don't think you should. And this is one of the things that I hear all the time. And Dr. Jeremy, you may hear this as well. Well, my therapist really didn't do anything for me. Date your therapist. Research your therapist before you go to them. Try another one. Just because one didn't do it for you, go to the next one. Don't give up trying. Like, I've been to some in the past, and I'm like, it was really like that. Sit on the couch. With the one that I have now, she's serious. She has homework for me. Okay, so I got to go back to her with some answers, and that's where you really see a difference and be prepared to be vulnerable, but don't be ashamed to go to therapy. Going to therapy doesn't mean you're crazy. It just means that you are ready to make a difference in your own life. And so I applaud all of you guys for sharing your stories, for talking about mental health, for making sure, especially Black men, because I know sometimes you're not supposed to be vulnerable. And so I thank you for that. And if you, like you said, if you need help, if you're thinking about it, Dr. Jeremy, did you give us you want to give out some of those lines, the text lines you said that were
I was just
available?
mentioning the resources that I gave you initially were kind of national, and you can go there to find actual therapists. It's a directory site. But on our actual website, there's some local resources available as well, that are there, as well as a text line, because some people need to be comfortable making that first step, and going to a therapist is just too big of an initial first step. They might want to just be confidential and be able to text people in confidence. And so it's a national line for that as well. And there's even just a state-based site there as well. So on our website, which will be listed, of course, I know they'll share our information, abc-life.org, there's an actual resource tab there where you can see some local-based resources for you. We're in the process now of actually launching some support groups as well, that we've been doing virtually, but now that it might be safe to kind of do some social distancing in smaller groups, we'll be able to move forward with those as well.
Thank you guys so much for that. So let's kind of go into what you learned about yourself when you were in the pandemic. Like what was new? You know, Nikki mentioned some things that happened to her, but what did you learn about yourself? What did you see different about yourself? Were you able to experience something new? Did you birth something new? You know, did you make, I know Nikki said she made a new community of people. Like what came about this for me? Because we can't always look at the negative aspects of it. What were the positives for you? So what did you learn about yourself? Dr. Jeremy, you're off mute, so you want to go first?
Sure. Don't you like how she just throws us in, right? You're not on mute.
I love it.
So there's a couple of things. One, I'm big on perspective. You know, life's going to happen, but how you adapt to it is really that test. And so through this, what I've learned is really how to take time out to be much more diligent in my organization. And when I say organization, I'm not talking about where I work. I mean, and being actually organized day in and day out, as far as being task oriented to get things done. A lot of things I was involved in as far as curriculum, strategic planning, finding that peace, being able to do it, managing the day. And another thing, of course, the ladies were talking about that green thumb and going to the nursery and getting things to grow. For me, I will admit to you all, prior to the pandemic, I was a yard man guy. He comes once every other week. Hey, I'm a cash app you, bro, do your thing. And, you know, my neighbors that are a tad bit older than me always laughed at me like, yeah, that's going to change one day. We'll see. Well, during the pandemic, they laughed. They took pictures because I was out there with my straw hat. I cut the yard. I learned how to edge y'all, how to do the line and everything, you know. So I picked up some handyman skills throughout the pandemic, which was much needed. And of course, you know, you save money that way and things of that nature. But I tried to flip that narrative of what we couldn't do to what can we do? What can we feel empowered with? Ina hit on it as well, technology. A lot of people were dead set on, you know, how technology now was what we had to depend on. But a lot of us knew this, you know, ahead of the curve, that we needed to be prepared for this type of thing to happen. So, you know, one aspect that really changed, and this is kind of career-based, is one of our largest services that we offer is non-emergency transportation with our agency. So dealing with individuals who have dialysis, guess what? The pandemic doesn't stop dialysis. You still have to go. Dealing with people who are dealing with doctor's appointments. And so making some of those decisions about our staff who drive, and researching and realizing that there were non-emergency transportation companies who had staff members who passed away from COVID through contracting it from members. And so actually having to make some of those tough decisions that were about human life versus, you know, what business needed to take place. And so really being able to focus on saying it's okay, telling some of our staff members that although you're not working, we're going to make sure you're taken care of, you know, really taking those approaches. And so, you know, it's been a growing experience when I really look at it.
I wasn't calling you out. You just, no one else was gonna have to move, so you was already ready to go. Like, right? Stephen, you wanted to go next?
Yeah. So you see how it's working. I went ahead and helped you out. Yeah, like Dr. Whitaker, I will say one thing prior to the pandemic, yes, any of my friends, any of my family members, anybody that knows me, I'm paying to get it done. I ain't got time, right? That's from changing my brakes, doing anything around the house, cutting the yard, doing it. I'm not, look, I'm a busy man. Here's a cash app, take care of that. One thing I learned through the pandemic is I'm good with my hands. Like, I'm not great now. I'm not great, but over the pandemic, I done put up a fence. I done changed the brakes on my car, some of my friends' cars. I done changed headlights and stuff that I wouldn't even dream about doing prior to the pandemic. I was like, you know what? I got time. I mean, I'm not physically having to go to the office. So I got a little time, so let me get out there and let me shake some. So I definitely picked up skills doing stuff around the house. Another thing I think I learned about myself, and I'm sure many of you saw this when the pandemic first popped off, was there was kind of this notion out there of where if you're not grinding, you ain't never had it in you. Like, don't let this pandemic beat you. Like, you're supposed to be up and grinding. And I can say at the beginning of the pandemic, like, I kind of fell prey to that a little bit. I was kind of thinking, oh man, like everybody grinding, like these folks starting new LLCs and they starting new nonprofits and they did it. Like, I saw it and I'm like, man, I need to be doing more. Like, I'm not doing enough. What I've learned since then is I ain't got to look at what nobody else doing. Like, I'm doing enough. And I know we offer mental health, but we never offer mental health, amen. You know, a lot of that can cause a strain on you if you're constantly looking at other people and what they're doing and thinking that you're not doing enough. So I think throughout the pandemic, one thing that I've learned about myself is that I can live in my own lane and I can do the things that I want to do without looking at what nobody else is doing and feeling pressure to see, well, am I doing enough? Am I working hard enough? Do I have what it takes to be this and that? I think I learned that I'm enough. Like, enough, and I define what success is for me. You know, for the students listening, you know, early on in my career, first coming out of college, you know, I was chasing the bag. I didn't care what I did. I didn't care what the title was. I needed the bag. I needed a bag. And that was success to me. Now here I am 10 years into my career and I don't chase the bag. I chase fulfillment. I chase liking, loving what I'm doing. And I can honestly say one of the bright things about the pandemic is that brought more of that out of me. I no longer just do things because I think it's gonna look good on my resume or because, you know, it's gonna get me in contact with this person. I don't care. You know, I've learned throughout this pandemic that I can do the things that I'm passionate about, the things that I care about the most, and that's enough. And I don't have to depend on anybody's attaboy or anybody's good job. Like, me feeling fulfilled is good enough. And you know, that's one of the things I picked up during the pandemic. Positive things.
Stephen, I thank you for that. I know the ladies are going next, but I just want to say I'm happy you mentioned that, particularly to the students, because I always tell people, you know, comparison kills. When you get to playing that comparison game, man, you will get the short end of the stick every time because you don't know their journey. But more importantly, like we talked about earlier, you don't know what that person is like when they remove their mask. And it might be a whole different ball game. And to hear you talk about not chasing that bag necessarily, but what I always say is purpose. Purpose pays, man. When you discover that, it's a whole different ball game because you can see the bag. And I've been in that situation. I'm pretty sure you all have as well. But the bag is not worth it. It's not worth me compromising what I know is not purposeful. It's not a part of my moral set just for me to get the bag. So I'm happy you hit on that, brother.
Yes.
Ina,
I want
did
to
you-
just, I'm sorry.
No, I was just calling you next.
Okay, I just want to shout out YouTube University. Like all of the panelists have mentioned, I mean, you can go online and figure out how to do a lot of things right now if you did not know how to do them before. So I've already talked about my experience with nature, but I have learned that I'm very tech savvy during this pandemic. Like, I can figure some stuff out. I have developed my own home studio with my podcasting, which has been very beneficial for me. And just to kind of piggyback on what the gentleman mentioned about, you know, looking at social media and not comparing yourself to others. I tell people that I am working with now with Ivy Multimedia that are trying to start their own podcast. Do not, you know, you can like someone else's podcast, but don't try to be just like them, because I think oftentimes we're inspired by people. However, you still have to be original. You have to have your own personality because it's going to come through that podcast. So that's something that I have been working on, just fine tuning my business, working with other people, kind of, you're forced to kind of stand in the background and say, hey, well, I can help somebody else, do some of the things that I have been doing. So that's what I have been focusing on. And also, we're spending more time with our family. I have had the pleasure of creating more intimacy with my husband and my kids, just getting to know them better, because I was on the go, like hardly could sit down and still doing a million things to get things done. So I've been able to talk to my 7-year-old, my 15-year-old, and 15 is a tricky age. So I needed to get in his business and see what was going on. So I am thankful for that. Me and my husband spending more time together, with us being at the house. Like, that's something we did not have. Like, I don't think I've ever spent that much time as I have been lately, as I am now. Like, for real, like creating the intimacy. I mean, this quality time, I'm loving it, and I needed it. I think we all needed it. So I'm done.
Nikki, did you want to chime in on that one as well?
Yeah, so unlike Ina in figuring out she needed that quality time, I figured out before the pandemic that it was time for me to make some adjustments in my personal life. So I went from being in a long-term relationship, we were leading to marriage, engaged, to realizing I needed some me time. So I took the pandemic to focus on me, to show up in every space that I am, my true authentic self. A lot of times we keep those masks on because that's what we feel we're expected to do. But when you can remove the veil and show up in any space, who you are in that very moment, and be present, it's empowering, not only to you, but to the people who are struggling to be in that space themselves. So I learned how to show up truly as Nikki. However that moment looks, it's present, it's genuine. And what I learned is people know what to expect from you. In any room, in any table I'm at, it normally resonates with someone because someone's struggling to do the same thing.
That's absolutely true. Absolutely true. I think all of these things that you guys mentioned are really good. I mean, Stephen, actually, I was one of those people that started my LLC during that time. But I was able to finally sit down and do something that I had worked on for a year. And so I utilized that time that I was home and able to do it. And I did it. I published a devotional during that time. But I think that devotional was helpful for people going through the pandemic. And so I realized, okay, wait, I gotta bring that back. I gotta put a business to that. I just can't put this book out here and then just not have a business with it. And so it pushed me into it. But it also, as Dr. Whitaker stated, it's my purpose. I knew that was purpose for me. And so I just kind of walked on into it. And so I think everyone shows up in a different way, but I was able to meet, I've met so many people during this pandemic that I probably would never meet if it didn't happen. Just from all over the world, I've interacted with so many great people just because of the pandemic. And I do appreciate that because that community has grown. You realize, like, I always thought I was an introvert. And so I don't usually, I'm not going to be that person that's going to step out and like talk to people. All my friends are very social. They're all extroverted and I'm the introvert of the group. But it seems like coming out of the pandemic, I was the person who was the social one even during the pandemic. But I also realized it was time for me to realize that no was a complete sentence and that I did not have to stay up to 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to get things done because we were off schedule. I'm like, okay, wait, I got to get up at 6 o'clock to get ready. I still have to work. Like, we're at home, but we're still working. And so our job was a little stressful when we first started out because we had to turn everything from people walking into our doors to look at apartments, so everything had to go virtual. And how all of you guys are talking about you were doing those home improvements. When the world shut down, people started looking for apartments more because they had more time. So we did not shut down. We did not like miss a beat. We closed our doors, but we had to turn everything virtual. And so virtual tours, every virtual training, everything was virtual. So we were working overtime just to get those type of things done. But it showed me who I was. It showed me that my purpose was my purpose and that, I can start walking in that purpose. So I did appreciate that time to just really kind of sit down and be able to learn how to say no, because no was a hard word for me before. But now it's not. Sometimes I am really busy, but sometimes I'm like, no, it's a no. It's 9. I want some positivity in my life. Let me go to bed, not listen to whatever is going on in this moment. And so thank you for that. I think those things are great things. I think that the students listening are going to need those things, because just think, if I heard some of these things that I hear now in college, my life would probably be so different right now. I mean, things when the pandemic shut down, like it shut down things, it wouldn't have been the same. But the biggest thing I think for me that I learned during the pandemic is how much my family truly, truly means to me, and how much we take family members and family for granted, because I was not able to see them the way that I wanted to see them. Not being able, thankfully, my parents are still here with me, but for me to go visit them and not be able to hug them when I get there was a little different. That was really different, and for them it was different because they're not used to that. We are an affectionate family, and so that just wasn't like, no, I can't hug you right now, and you don't know what to do. You just sit there and you're like, oh, okay, like what do we do? So, and now I think it means a lot to be able to say, you know what, I haven't talked to somebody in 15 years, but I can get on a virtual family reunion with them and talk to them. Why didn't we think about that before the pandemic? Like we hadn't, reached out to people. So I thank y'all for being open and honest with that. And then hopefully the students took something from that during this time, because you're going to need that 10, 15 years from now. Don't be like us and be busy, 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 where you don't take the time to enjoy your life and enjoy the things that you need, and realize that your decisions are your life decisions. Like Nikki said, she was like, I'm going to show up how is what show up is for me. Not for somebody else, but I'm showing up for me. And those are important. And I want to, like Ina mentioned, like just building that intimacy with her husband and her children. Do you know how many children are like, they get to college age or they get grown and now they don't know how to build intimacy with the other person they're with because they didn't get that. So think about those type of things. Those are important. And the guys are like, hey, listen, I was paying people, but I had to figure out how to do that stuff. But I was willing to do it. Being willing to learn those new skills are important. And I think that's good for people to know now. But one thing I will say about, the generations that are coming up, they're risk takers. They are willing to do some of these things. And I'm like, so you just took that risk. But you just made a whole $1 million off of taking that risk. And I would have been sitting there like, okay, no. I would have called Dr. Jeremy. He would have said no. Nikki would have been like, nah, we might not, probably don't need to do that. We would have called everybody else to get that amen circle, but they'll just take that risk. That like it's just so I thank you guys for being vulnerable and saying that. So we want to talk about the social isolation. Are you guys like back out doing some things? Are you still kind of isolated? Like, how are you feeling about it right now? Like, what did you do anything during the pandemic, or did you stay in, and are you guys still working from home now? So who who came off for me? Someone. Steven, was that
I
you?
can.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. When you talked about the social piece, the first thing that came to mind was I'm back outside. And I want to preface it by saying I am fully vaccinated. Okay, fully vaccinated. You dig me? So yeah, I mean, lately, my friend group is pretty small anyway. But my friends and I, my small group of friends and I, we've been hanging out and stuff lately. But we're all one thing. Once I got access to get people vaccinated, I got all of the people around me. They wanted to be vaccinated, obviously. I got them vaccinated because we wanted to be around each other unapologetically again. But throughout the pandemic, we kept it pretty small. We may have gotten together. We got together 4th of July, but it was weird because we was at my sister's house and like everybody was 6 feet apart from each other. Like we had stations set up for each family group, so it's like me and my family group were over here, and like it was weird. And we did the same thing for Thanksgiving and all that. But now we're slowly but surely starting to get back into some social interactions. I don't think I'm still ready to be around like a lot of people. Just because it is one thing I want to put out there is the pandemic is not over. People are getting sick every single day. A close friend of mine, her cousin passed away Monday from the virus. Another one of her cousins passed away 2 weeks ago from the virus. So one thing I want to make sure is very clear is that things are not over, and we still need to take precautions. And if you feel safe to get vaccinated, do so. But if not, you still need to practice CDC guidelines and do what you need to do to protect not only yourself and your family, but people around you. I unfortunately I tested positive back in July, and I had a bad experience with it, but not as bad as, a lot of people, and I'm, extremely blessed for that. But, it's important to keep things in perspective, right? So, outside will be out. It's going to be there. Like, it's not going nowhere. I know it feels like it because we've been in the house for a year, but it's not going anywhere. And we still need to do the things that are going to keep people safe and are going to save lives. And so, but yeah, I am starting to, slowly but surely get back out there.
All right, who wants to take that question next?
So I have a 12-year-old son who's about to be 13, and he's high risk. He has severe asthma, respiratory issues, had walk-in pneumonia last year. His classmates are in school now, and he's still at home. So dealing with that social isolation. He's a tween, puberty kicking in. It's kind of hard. And, I just got vaccinated today. So for anybody who's watching who know me and I seem like I can't get right, it's just I'm a few steps behind. I promise I'll catch back up tomorrow. But, when I thought about the name of this, it's pandemic proof. Getting that vaccination is making sure that we're pandemic proof. And when things actually start to open back up, we'll be able to enjoy them and go back to whatever the new norm looks like. So, right now for me, I'm still kind of indoors. I put my foot out and did the Tootsie Roll a little bit, but then I kick it back in real quick because I'm not quite ready because, my son needs me. And losing a parent, my mom had COVID. I think it just ran through my family. My folks are from Mississippi, so they didn't quite take it as serious. They still had barbecues, cookouts, but it was just a group that knew each other. So again, we didn't really think outside of the box of them thinking, Aunt Keisha could have it, Cousin Jan could have it and be asymptomatic. So at this point, we're just trying to make sure that everybody's, safe, vaccinated before we get back together as a family. After losing so much, like you said, family becomes the only thing that you're worried about in this moment, and the people around you and making sure that they're safe as well.
For myself, I am still at the house. I had to cut a two-step yet, like Nikki. I wish I want to, but I'm scared. I'm still scared. I've been seeing a few of my friends brunching. I want some. I can't, I'm not ready. And I don't know if it's because I've been in the house so long, but I just feel like it's not over. And it really, in reality, it is not over. So, also, you've all mentioned like family gatherings. I've been finicky about that too. I tell my husband, I'm not going. I'm sorry. Tell Granny, I say, hey, but I don't want to get her sick. I don't want nobody there to get me sick. I'm sorry. Like, I feel some kind of way about it because I know that this is not over. And I received a call from my manager last week. He told me, well, Ina, you all have been working from the house since, March before last, and we've made an executive decision. You all will do that going forward. Like, we're not going back to work. And mentally, I'm like, what? I was looking forward to that, but it's not happening, due to COVID. So I've still been in the house. I do get out on Sundays to do my radio show at Crosstown, but it's just me in the studio. Other than the young lady that's doing her shift before me, we have to wear masks if someone's in the studio. So that's the only getting out I do. When I go to Starbucks in the morning, I'm not getting out the truck, but I'm at the house, y'all. I'm scared.
Ina, you can two-step in Starbucks. That's why I normally do my Tootsie Roll. I need to get out in Starbucks and get some interaction. So you can slide on out the door with your mask on. It make you feel better to smell the coffee.
I got you. I'm gonna go with you and two-step one day.
I got it waiting for you. That's just my normal everyday spot is Starbucks. But again, if we live in fear, and we never quite start adjusting to what the new norm. I'm afraid of the social isolation piece still. I'm afraid of large crowds, like Stephen said. No matter where I am, if I'm in the grocery store, y'all, I'm looking around like, why is she closed? If somebody sneezes, I'm like, you got the Rona. We can't even normalize sneezing and coughing and normal allergies right now. We're so afraid.
Like, what is normal now? What is normal?
Listen.
I don't
Somebody
know.
Nana almost got it the other day for standing too close to me. Somebody Nana was I'm like I felt her presence on my back. Like I didn't even see her. I felt her, and I turned around. I'm like, ma'am.
Pass now. Nana gets a pass.
And I get a pad.
Nana probably gave it to me in the first place back in July, so we don't know. Okay, nobody gets a pad.
Well, look, similar to Steven, I'm outside somewhat. I've been fully vaccinated going on almost a month now. But my outside is a little bit different. My outside is my backyard on the grill. The grill's been hot the past 2 weeks. Me and my guys, which is like Steven's kind of a small group of us, we've kind of just been rotating whose house we're going to pull up at the grill and kick it and chill or whatever. But essentially, all of us are vaccinated. I am a gym guy, so I like to work out. But essentially, I've been having, to be at the house with all my equipment, buying some different stuff throughout the pandemic. And this past week, I did go back to the gym, but I'm an early guy. I'm there at 5:30, 6 a.m. Most people are not there that time. Really, I'll say about 6 or 6:30, I'm in there at the latest. And so it's really an older crowd there, and they're social distancing as well. I went to a location that was kind of close to Midtown this morning, and there was people in there without masks. And so that'll be the last time I go to that one for quite a while, but like you said, Nikki, you don't want to live in fear, continue to live in fear, but this thing is not over. We have to be safe. We have to protect ourselves. And I was just talking to my daughter earlier because, they're ready to be out. They want to mall it. They want to hit the movies. They want to do their thing. She's a teenager. And I'm telling her, hey, look, it's not safe. It's not good. And, of course, they don't understand that. But sometimes we're a parent. We ain't your friend. That's what I tell her. So, you have to understand that. So it's been all good.
You know what? Let me piggyback on what Jeremy just said. My 15-year-old. Baby, a pandemic, he wants to go somewhere, and it's hard to tell them no, but you're the parent, you have to tell them no. I'm like, things are not the same anymore. It's just different now, and these kids want to get out the house, and it's hard to tell them no, but you have to, because are they really gonna keep their mask on if you drop them off to the movies? The movies is open.
Right.
Urban air is open. All these social places are still open. And so their friends are going. So they're like, well, my friends are going. I don't care about your friends. What did I say? But got to be the parent and make the top decision. It's hard.
Yeah, no, you're right. My daughter was doing gymnastics right before the pandemic popped off. And then, of course, it popped off in the gym. The gym closed down, but then they opened back up probably like a month later with all these new regulations and what they doing and woo. I'm like, baby girl, nah. I know your friends going back. I'm like, look, that's cool, but you and yours will be at home, okay?
So y'all were laying down the law as parents. I can dig it. Okay. And so for me, it has been a little different for me. I'm also fully vaccinated, but my work is outside. And so I'm a trainer. So we are back. I'm actually even back traveling a little bit right now as well. And so not as much as before, but I'm living at I have to have a whole extra bag when I go out of town because I got to wipe everything down before I go in there, spray everything down. So it has been a little different. But the funny thing for me is so I have fibromyalgia. And at first I was very much in because I'm like, I don't really know the symptoms can kind of be very similar to COVID. So I wasn't going to know if, maybe it happened or if it didn't happen. So I wanted to stay in. But at some point it got to a bad point where it was just flaring because I was so by myself and I was so in the house that I was just tired. And so I needed to get out just to see outside and experience it in a different way. And I can remember I went to brunch. I have a friend that we've kind of been, for me, I had to have that friend partner during the pandemic because, like I said, I don't have family here, right? So I'm from Mississippi as well, Nikki. And so, it was a long way away to just go there. And so we went to brunch and I feel like I immediately felt 100 times better just by being able to go to brunch because my body had just wore down. And so it was reacting in a different way. And so I've used those times, but I've kind of tried to do it a little bit differently. And so I'm not out and about all the time, but I sometimes, for work, I just have to go out. Our office is open back up. We're not working from home. And so it was a little different, but I did get vaccinated and, but it is very different. Like you, Steven, I always wanted people to give me 50 feet in the grocery store. I'm like, do you need to get my card number? Am I paying for your groceries too? And so I'm like, I need the 6 feet to last well. like I always want you to be that far away from me because, you just shouldn't be in people's personal space like that anyway. So I think that part didn't really bother me because I'm usually not up close on someone, just giving people their privacy. So I'm gonna want that to last. So can you guys put those stickers back down on the floor? Because I need them to see those stickers. So I'm that person. But it's good to know that you
You have
guys.
children?
Hmm?
Do you have children?
Mm-mm.
Get ready for all your personal space to be invaded. You won't have no more personal space, no boundaries or any of that once you have some children in your house.
It's okay for like my family members, but I'm just saying like the strangers like in the store that I don't know. I'm like, can you not stand that close? Like we're just back up. But yeah, like like I said, my family, we're very close. So for me, that was one of the hard things because like if I go see my parent, like my mom and dad, like I'm a grown woman, but I'm hugging on them, like we're interacting, like we're playing games with each other. So for me, that was different. I actually was able. My brother lives in Las Vegas, and so I had not seen him already like a year before the pandemic, and we had a part. He was turning 40 last year, like right before the pandemic shut everything down, and he was not able to have his party. And so I did fly out to see him back like in November. Now I was Stephen, I was like you, I had an anxiety attack in the airport because I was like, it's a lot of people here, and it's only one plane leaving from this area. So I know we're all going on one plane. Like to the point I called my mom and I was like, I'm not going. I don't think I'm going. And she was like, well, what happened? I was like, it's a lot of people in here. Like this plane is full. Like it cannot be any open seats. And so it took me a little bit and we got through it. Luckily it was a straight shot but and I got there, my brother's like, what's wrong? I'm like, why are you standing in the middle of these people? Like, you don't know these people. Let's back up. Just get my bag. We can wait. And so I understand that, but I definitely, I can say I'm one of those people that have been out. I do take precautions. I always have my mask on. For me, I'm training 8 hours a day in a mask. And so that's been very different, but it's necessary. And we have like kind of, switched our training up. We do some parts of it virtual, some parts of it in person. But I also needed that interaction because I was like slowly just not feeling well without it and didn't realize how much I needed the social interaction. So thank you guys for those answers on that. And then just being honest, because everyone's at a different space. I really like how they have those little bracelets of different colors where people are comfortable, not comfortable. I don't, I'm not a huge hugger anyway, but like, we still need to be doing some elbows and washing our hands and doing those type of things. So, we're not saying any of us that are vaccinated, we're not saying just because we're vaccinated that those things go out the window. Those will be here and for a long time to come. So I do want to say that. I know that everyone on this panel, y'all all are high performers. And so I have a question. Do you think that you were at the same performance level during the pandemic that you were before? Or do you think you kind of took a little, a break from it, you slowed down a little bit, or did you keep pushing through to strive to be that high performer that you were? And I know you couldn't do as much stuff, but did you do what you could at home to be the same level of a performer? Y'all are like, ooh, I don't know about this one.
Love question.
Actually, that pressure, it brought out the best in me. And honestly, through all of the grief I dealt with, through everything else with the pandemic, I found myself being more intentional with how I devoted my time and what I devoted my time to. So whereas before I was running like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to do any and everything, I learned how to say no, Delilah. And I also learned how to be intentional and delegate and use my team. So yes, I was a high performer, but at the same time, there's space for everybody at the top. Some of those opportunities that only I would take advantage of, it's like, no, hey, here's one for my team. I want you to learn. I want you to grow. I want you to stretch not only professionally, but personally. Here's a resume builder. Oh, you want to create a program? Get it together. Show me how it looks. And my answer is yes. So I used my team and I helped and took this time to grow them and to stretch them beyond their capacity. And when we talk about pivoting to online, I was one of the first ones in the nonprofit sector not to sit and wait to see what was going to happen. We do girl talks in the community, guy talks. We offer an influencer blog. We had to learn how to do a blog, Ina, because we needed this information to get to the parents and to the influencers and to the ones who are dealing with the students. If we can't get them on social media, they're probably somewhere that they'll go to a safe space that's just for them to read it and understand it. So everything we do, even our trainings, we moved it online. I had to find a new way to deal with my funders. You know, I said, I'm not going to ask for money. I'm going to call. Let's ask how they're doing. How's your family doing? How's your business? And then let me take that moment to be transparent to say, hey, I may be at 80% capacity at this moment, but here's why. So I laid out everything that was going on within the company, with me personally, and build a rapport that led to us not having to struggle financially, because people can appreciate when you say, look, here's what's going on. Here's how we're dealing with it. But I don't want your money at this point. I just want to know that you're okay and let you know what's going on with the staff and with the business. So I think this has been a growing moment for us. We're at our 10-year anniversary. We have 6 affiliates across the state, but I can say as far as my team, we became much leaner during this pandemic. I had to cut out a few programs, but I'll say at this moment, the current team that I have, I put them against any team in this city or in this state. They work hard, they know their purpose, and I think that they feel that they're appreciated. And my 3 Ps that keep someone happy and at their job, this even is for the students listening. The 3 Ps, it's passion has to meet purpose, and the purpose has to meet your pay. And if you can do all 3 of those, people will stay much longer. So in being intentional and making sure those 3 Ps are in place as much as I can.
Ina, did you want to say something?
Yes, you know what? When the pandemic hit, I had to start working from home with my corporate job. I felt like I had too many distractions, and I had to really learn how to be disciplined with working from home, because at first I did not have it down pat. I had to develop a routine. So initially, I would say I was more of a high performer working at my job, but I had to start working smarter and getting that routine down to, equally be, as effective in that role. From a media perspective, still working smarter. I've let a few things go that I felt, weren't beneficial, and start honing in on the things that I really wanted to grow with Ivy Multimedia. So that gave me a chance, like I said earlier, to help other people start their podcasts, develop their talent and things of that nature, which that in itself has been so rewarding. Like to see them get into it and actually come up with a finished product, get it published, it's on Spotify, like that makes me feel so good inside to help someone else do the same thing. So I had to work smarter. I will say that, work smarter.
Yeah, now I'll just piggyback off that if I can. So in terms of being a high achiever, prior to the pandemic, I've built my career on being very results driven and just driving to results. And listen, you give me a project, I'm going to deliver it. That's been my thing. I think during the pandemic, what I've had to do is kind of pivot. And this is, I really want the students to take this away from this. I had to pivot from being the guy that's known for delivering results to being the guy that's known for connecting people. And that's where I found a lot of my achieving and a lot of my value growing throughout the pandemic. Because, one thing that I think I learned early on is during the pandemic, when you're working from home, like there's only so much you can do by yourself. There's only so much you can deliver by yourself. And so being able to connect people in order to get things done, that became the new value add within my organization. Because a lot of people, one of the things we can't see what's going on behind somebody's camera, so we don't know how effective someone is really able to be. And so, one thing that I kind of shifted to was focusing on building relationships with people, even during the pandemic, setting up Zoom calls and talking to people that if I was physically in the office, I probably wouldn't talk to be honest, because I'm focused. I'm trying to get to where I'm trying to go. I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do. So I'm probably gonna walk past Jeff, because Jeff ain't helping me do what I need to do. But during the pandemic, kind of shifting that and saying, okay, I need to figure out what's going on. How's everybody doing for real? Like for real. Like, how you doing? Like, is everything okay? Me kind of making that shift has helped me continue to achieve at a high level. And, one of the things that we're seeing within our organization is we are more productive at home than we were in the office in terms of actually delivering things and getting things done. And I think, for me, it was about figuring out, where did I add value? For me, when I first started out the pandemic, I didn't have an office set up. Like I had an office, but it wasn't really in my house. It wasn't really set up like that. And so I had to like kind of focus and had to put together an office. Like I had to go get me an office chair. I didn't have an office chair for what? I had to go get an office chair. I had to go get some real lamps so I could have some real lighting so people could see me. Doing things like that kind of helped me focus again, because at the beginning I was just like, okay, we work from home. This is kind of weird. But once I kind of refocused and kind of reshifted how I was adding value, I was able to achieve.
Good stuff, Stephen. Good stuff, brother. Very similar. I would say this, as far as being a high performer prior to the pandemic, for me, things really didn't slow down. We had to adapt. And I think that's something students really need to take to heart is, one thing about leadership is you have to be willing to adapt and be flexible and understand, like Nikki hit on, if you're in a management role, which many of you will be, people have to feel valued. And it has to be bigger than title. It's not in the titles, executive director, COO, founder. Now, it's in the works. It's in your ability to influence others to tap into the best part of themselves. And so through that, I was able to actually tap into some more passion projects, as I call it. Projects that might not have been shown as much, TLC prior to the pandemic because they weren't as revenue driven. But I was able to put much more time into it. And two of them come to mind. One is one of the things we do is we help individuals who have disabilities gain job readiness skills and get employed. And throughout this pandemic, I've been able to give much more time towards ensuring that they have an advocate to find employment opportunities. And a lot of them, keep in mind, have sensory disabilities. So they might be blind, visually impaired, deaf. And, with those barriers there, being able to tell you guys that throughout this pandemic, we've been able to help almost close to 20 individuals, if not more, who are completely either blind, deaf, some disability, get employed. Despite the pandemic going on, positive things have been happening. Thank you guys. And that feeling of seeing someone who always heard no, always was pushed against these barriers for various reasons. And I always tell people, even students, make know your vitamin. When you wake up and you get started, make know your vitamin. And Les Brown talks about that. And so through that, it's been great. And then the other passion project is really developing some curriculum that's aimed at, eliminating the stigma around mental health for athletes. I'm a former student athlete. And I tell people all the time, you can see a torn muscle, but you can't see the torn mind. So being able to build more curriculum around that, I'm excited about what's coming up, being able to really make an impact in our city with it, as well as some projects I'm involved in. But what really has adapted for me is being able to be much more intentional. When you're in a space, and we're all guilty of this as leaders, you can physically be in a space, but mentally you're somewhere else because you're trying to check this off the list because you got this on your calendar, you got that on your calendar. I, throughout this pandemic, have been much more intentional about being present in the moment and valuing that moment because, you don't realize how precious a moment is until it's gone, until it's not there sometimes. And so I really have enjoyed the process about this pandemic.
Wow, really, really good answers there. Dr. Jeremy, just going back to something you said, I was listening in or hosting a call, and there was a NFL player ex-NFL player, and he said he couldn't watch football for a whole year because of how it mentally impacted him because he could no longer play. And they were, he's now an advocate for mental health. And we don't really look at those things. And, and it's good to see like the athletes that are definitely, already successful, go back and try to put it into the aspect of the young generation in the community, because we need that moving forward. I know in the past you were taught not to have feelings, but now we need to let people sit with their feelings, and they need to understand why they're feeling that way. How can they overcome that? Because when we get older, those anxiety attacks, those heart attacks at 30 years old, at 25-year-old, blood pressure problems when you're in your teens and 20s, those things are real. And a lot of that comes back to how you are mentally handling things, how your mind operates, and the things that you keep on your mind will eventually, affect your physical health as well. So those are so important. So please keep working on that. I'm sure everyone else on the panel is willing to help in ways. I'm willing to help in ways. Mental health is one of those things that is very important to me, because I know that it's important. I know my own struggles with it. I know my own battles. I'm very transparent about that. So it's very important. And so we have been doing this panel because of the students and because we want to motivate them to do more, and we want to answer some of their questions, and we want to see them do more. I want to make sure that you guys that are watching, that you don't jump off, because we do have a presentation just right after we finish the panel for the SCS Elite scholarship presentation. So I don't want you to miss that as well. And the panel, we have one or two more questions and we're going to wrap up, because this is all about them. We're just giving them some advice so that when they finish school and they go on about their business and they do those things, they can come back and relate and say, hey, they did it. They made it through this process, so I know that I can. And so I want to ask a question that's kind of directly related to the students. I think it was either Stephen or Jeremy that kind of touched on this, but a lot of their plans were interrupted. Maybe especially for those student athletes who went to college and they did that because they wanted to play sports. This is what they were used to. They've done this all their time, and now you go to no longer having games, and the football games are canceled or your fans can't be there. You may be used to someone in the audience yelling at you saying, hey, you could have did this or you should have did this, and now that person's no longer there in the audience to do that because maybe they weren't able to. So when you think about the students and they had to do those pivots, they still have dreams, but they may have been on hold this year and they may still be on hold right now. What advice would you give them when it comes to their dreams, when it comes to some of the things that they want to do, and how do you think they can pivot in different ways and stay motivated during this time?
I'll jump in first. The first thing that came to mind for me, Delilah, was, refocus in on your why, right? So you mentioned, some student athletes may, they went to college because they wanted the opportunity to play that sport and be able to, get a free education for it, or at least a partially paid for education. But always go back to your why. So, I know this year feels like it's been on hold, but what is the why behind your action, right? I think refocusing on that will give you an opportunity to restructure what it is you want to do. Because the fact of the matter is, we have to be honest, things are not going to look the same as they did before, right? So the world that existed is gone. Okay, let's just all wrap our minds around that and accept that as a reality, right? So now we need to recalibrate and say, okay, what is my why and how do I achieve it? One thing that has not stopped during this pandemic is innovation. There have been innovative ways to get everything done. Everything that was going on has still gone on in some capacity. It doesn't look the same. It may not feel the same, but it's still happening. So what is your why? Why are you doing the thing that you are doing? Or why is it that you want to pursue? Or why did you want to pursue what you started pursuing? Once you recalibrate that and refocus on that, you can restructure what the game plan looks like. And to be honest, you have to make it real. I've seen, far too many students over this pandemic talk about what they're gonna do and talk about what they want to do. The fact of the matter is, we have to accept the reality of the situation of what we're dealing with right now and figure out what do we do going forward. I think not being rooted in your why is not going to allow you to do that, because you're going to be chasing an endless tail in that regard, because you're not going towards a specific goal. If you had a goal when you started out, okay, why did you have that goal? Okay, and now what do you do as a result of it? And don't be afraid to use resources around you. One thing for all the students, you're not doing any of this alone. You have resources, whether it's folks with the school or whether it's your friends or family. You have people around you that can help you with this process, but they can't help you if you can't help yourself, and you can't help yourself if you don't know why you're doing it.
That's good. That's good. That's really good. So who wants to go next on that one?
I'll go
Tina?
next. I'll go
Okay.
next. Like as you mentioned, with the kids. Some of their dreams have been interrupted, right? That doesn't mean it's over. It does not mean it's over. It's just kind of like a pause on the plan, right? If I were them, I would take some time to hone in on doing something that would, let's just say, for example, if they're into basketball, I'll use my son as an example. He plays AAU basketball. Pandemic hit, all of that stuff stopped, right? And he was very frustrated. And I told him, I said, well, why don't you take this opportunity to go in the backyard and do some drills, like develop like a game plan on getting sharper with your basketball skills. Like, you still can practice, you still can get better. You don't have to be in that gym to do that. You can work out, you can do a lot of the things that you need to do to make you become a better athlete. Also, I would say, look at some of the other gifts that you have. Like, if you can't do one thing, look at some of the other things that you're really great in and hone in on those skills. I use my son Dallas, another example. When he couldn't do that, I told him to develop that training program in the backyard. When he got sick of doing that, I told him, I said, hey, why don't you get back into art? Like, he loved art, like growing up, like when he was much younger. And every now and then he goes back to it. But during this pandemic, I said, now is the perfect time to pick up that pad and start sketching. And so he did it. And he was like, he kept showing me his sketches, like, Mom, look what I did. Look what I did. What you think? So you will find other things that you are interested in. Not saying that, with your original plan, that it's over. I would say it's just a pause on it, and it's not over. You still can work towards that. You're just going to have to navigate differently now to accomplish the same goal. You're just going to have to find another way to do it, and another way to even get better at what you're trying to do. Because we've all made pivots. Everybody on this panel has had to pivot and do something different to keep going. So you all can do the same. I promise you can.
I agree. Ina, Stephen, both great points. For working in college leadership for over a decade, dealing with students from all different backgrounds, I have seen firsthand how this pandemic has totally changed how higher education, college is done, and even K through 12. It will never be the same. Education as we know it will never be the same. And many have argued already, is education a necessity or a commodity? What's the deal? And so what this has really shaped for us is that debate even further. But what I would share with students is, post-pandemic, allow your life post-pandemic to represent the thoughts that others have rejected for themselves. So, and what I mean by that is essentially, others have rejected the thought of what they could have accomplished because of what the pandemic stopped. Allow yourself to be the catalyst of change of saying, hey, all this changed, but I was still able to get this accomplished. Be dialed in, be focused. As Stephen said, tap into your why. Ina hit on something that's important. What this pandemic has showed all of us is the importance of being very diverse, and not just diverse as far as color and ethnic background, but having multiple skill sets. As a student, having a transferable skill set will take you very far beyond your resume, what degree you have, because many people get caught up in degrees and things like that. It's so much bigger. You don't have to have necessarily that degree or that credential if you have the ability to have transferable skills, build relationships, because you'll find yourself at the right place in the right time with the right people around you, which can change the whole course in which direction you're going. So be willing to be that catalyst of change and represent what other people have rejected as far as what they could accomplish, as far as the thought of themselves, and be dynamic as far as creating multiple things that you can do. Don't find yourself in one lane. That's what has happened throughout this pandemic. Many people who were dependent upon, this is just what I do. Well, now what happened? So it's important that you're not afraid to hear the word no. If you're like me, I grew up in a household where I heard no. Sometimes I heard hell no, depending on how I asked, to be honest with you, what was going on. So if you're walking through that with life with that fear and that's stopping you, I want to encourage you to push through it, because on the other side of that fear is where greatness happens. That's where those goals are accomplished. And so please take this time, if nothing else, to do some internal searching on who you are. Be real about those challenges. Is it time management? Is it organization skills? Is it your ability to handle conflict? Because conflict's going to happen in life. And if every time you face conflict, you're quick to use this mouthpiece versus these two ears, it's going to give you a lot of problems. So take this time to develop those soft skills, because that's what this pandemic has really showed us, that it's bigger than the title, bigger than the bank account, it's bigger than your organizational budget. This is real life.
I mean, you guys have hit on everything except for the dinosaur and me will say everything that they said. You still have to write it down, you know, in order to bring it to pass. I'm still a firm believer in writing your goals down. That's something that we stand firm on at A Step Ahead Foundation. It's all about planning. And when you create a plan, create a realistic plan. And I say, don't say in the next 5 years or the next 10 years, let's start small. Let's say what you want to do over the next 3 months. And then write down what are those small goals that you want to get accomplished. And then let's be realistic, like Dr. Jeremy said. What are some of the obstacles that could get in your way? And then what are some of the things that I know I'm good at? And then just be prepared for things not to go the way that you expected for them to go. That's real life. It happens to all of us, but that's why you've identified more than one goal. And just be committed to that journey. So when you write it down, you can look at it when you're brushing your teeth. When you go to the refrigerator multiple times, like me, you can see it every time you open that door. Wherever it is that you frequent, make sure your goals are right there. So you got them right there, front and center. And just be okay with being exactly where you are right now. Don't feel the pressure of being more, of doing more. You should be further. You are exactly where you're supposed to be in this moment. Just don't get stuck there. Keep moving.
I want to add to that, Nikki, because you just hit on something. I thank you. I mean, that was phenomenal. You mentioned something about identifying, and I want to share this with students. Be able to identify who your haters are and who your fans are. And it's important to understand this and realize this. Sometimes your biggest fans, you don't even know them. They're farther away. And your biggest haters are right there with you every day, all day. You in the group text, they're talking to you, all those things. But this is the biggest deal. Sometimes your biggest hater is the person you see in the mirror every morning when you wake up. And that's because you're not doing the best you can do to die empty. The graveyard is full of potential, ideas, dreams, goals, businesses that never came to life. Be determined to leave this earth empty.
Listen. For everyone that's listening, students, if you're not a student, I mean, I feel like anyone could have gotten this conversation tonight and you left feeling your purpose was a little bit differently, right? And so for me, just to round that out, if I had to tell a student anything is don't minimize your story, I mean your struggle, because your struggle actually becomes your story in life and you're able to live that out. These guys have talked about some really, really good things. Learn more, be willing to meet new people. I'm a firm believer, please get rid of that phrase, no new friends. I know it was a song. I know it was, it was good then, but I can tell you, just like Dr. Jeremy said, I have met some people who support me and who push me. And I'm like, where did you even hear me at? Like, how do you even know me? And they were like, oh, I just heard you talking to somebody else, or I heard you here, I heard you there. And those people become my supporters and they support me in a way that I would have never imagined being able to be supported. And so don't do that. Don't, connect with people, use those connections when people are, and also be able to receive constructive criticism, because sometimes people are really trying to help you out because they've been through the struggle, and don't just think about it as they don't want me to do something, or they want to hold me back. They may be actually trying to pour some wisdom into you, and appreciate that wisdom, because there are times that people can tell you something that you would never know that they're going through. You look at them and you say, oh, they got it all together. They got $1 million in the bank. Everyone's trying to get 6 figures. They're trying to be millionaires, but you have no idea what they did to get to that point. So be willing to sit down and listen to them get to that point. I want you guys to go ahead and tell people how they can connect with you, either website, social media, any of those things, because somebody tonight may want to reach out. The students may want to reach out. They may want to go to the same field that you're in. They may need you to be a mentor to them. Who knows? You always have to be willing to, and that's one of my things. I am really big on mentorship. Find you a really good mentor in any area that you're trying to go into, and you need more than one mentor. Like, if you sometimes you need a spiritual mentor, you may need a business mentor. If you're in a relationship, you may need another couple to help mentor you. trying to mentor and be willing to be open and be vulnerable in those situations. But I definitely want to give the panelists an opportunity to give out their social media if they want to, their website, whatever it is that people can connect with you if they want to help you out with something. I know a lot of you mentioned some great ideas that you have going on if they want to be a part of it. So Nikki, I'll start with you and just tell the people how they can connect with you.
All right, thank you. And I know you mentioned that the scholarship presentation is next. We've given out $1.5 million for post-secondary education. So I'd love for you guys, girls, I'm sorry, guys, we don't have it yet for you, but for the young women next year, just be on the lookout around the end of January to find that scholarship opportunity. And that's for 17 to 35. So tell your mama, tell your auntie, and tell your cousin as well. And where you can find me is on a Step Ahead Foundation's website. Go straight to it. The transparency is there. You can find my cell phone number. You can find my email address, however you'd like to connect. I'll be here for you. Whether it's in a mentor capacity, we have a youth council to help develop those leadership skills, girl talk, guy talk, whatever it is you're looking for. If you see it on our website and I can help you with it, I'll be more than happy to get involved.
Ina, you wanted to go next?
Sure. Guys, you can connect with me on all social media platforms at Ina Esco. That's ENAESCO. Please follow me. I'll follow back. Check out the podcast, Verbally Effective, at verballyeffective.com. You can listen to it on all streaming platforms. Also, check out my radio show, Musically Effective, on WYXR. That's 91.7 FM on your radio dial if you're in the Mid-South, but it's wyxr.org if you are not in this particular region. But connect with me. I am always looking to mentor a young lady, a young fellow. If you guys are interested in media, interested in podcasting, have something on your chest. I'm a communicator. I like to talk, and I most importantly like to listen. So you guys need me, I'm there.
Thanks, Ina. Dr. Jeremy, you want to go next?
Sure. Similar to Ina, you can definitely connect with me on all your social media platforms. IG, it's Dr. J Purpose Pays. Website to reach out to me directly is drjpurposepays.com. So you heard me talking about purpose earlier. I'm truly trying to embody that. LinkedIn, because some of you need to have a LinkedIn page. If you're on this call right now, you need to be on LinkedIn. So I'm on LinkedIn as well. Facebook, connect with me. Our organizational's website is abc-life.org. I know earlier we were talking about some of those resources, and what we provide is wraparound support in various areas, including some educational training and consulting. So you can find a lot of things we're doing there. But yeah, reach out, connect. I will respond. If I can support anything you're doing, I'm there. I want to leave you guys with this because I think it's important that you know, never let success go to your head and never let failure go to your heart. Be resilient. Keep going.
Dr. Jeremy is our whole motivational speaker tonight, if y'all did not know.
Oh, man.
I'm just going to give you a whole new role. Okay. So just add that to you. You just told, wait a minute. You just told the students that you got to be in more than one lane. So just go ahead and accept that other lane for you. And Stephen.
Amen. So I made it very easy for people to connect with me. Every single one of my platforms, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I made a Twitter like 2 days ago. So look, don't judge my Twitter, but it's all at Stephen, STEBEN, F Sanders. Every single one of them. So you can find me on all platforms at Stephen F Sanders. It's SEBEN, okay, BEN, the PH, that ain't me. But yeah, I mean, anywhere I can support, anywhere I can help. I'm really big into mentoring and coaching. It's what I'm passionate about. It's what I do for free every day. But I'm really big into mentoring, coaching, you know, helping people with strategy and all of that. So reach out to me if I can be of any help to anybody.
And guys, I'm your moderator, Delilah House. You can reach out to me on any social media sites at Delilah Shantea, and that's DELILASHANTEA. And then any personal page is going to be Delilah House. I am on LinkedIn as well. Stephen, I'm like you. I just made a Twitter recently and haven't did anything on there. But I want to thank the panelists because I feel like they have poured their hearts out tonight. They have been truly transparent and truly vulnerable. They brought the energy tonight. And I thank you guys, each and every one of you, for being on here tonight and just pouring into the students. And so if you feel like you had someone who was not able to get on, please make sure you send them to YouTube so they can watch it and they can hear it. They may need that motivation for in the future, or someone else they know may need the motivation. So please make sure that you share it. Thank each and every panelist. We're going to turn it back over to Jeremy so that we can watch the scholarship presentation. So do not log off. We need you to watch the scholarship presentation because the students have worked really hard for this. So please make sure you tune in. But we will all catch you next time. So thank you guys so much.
Peace. Y'all take care.
Stay dangerous.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Taylor Woody. I am the current president of STS Elite. I'm currently a senior public relations major at the University of Memphis. I just want to say thank you to the panelists for coming in and chopping it up with us today. They really dropped some gems. We always bring in the heavy hitters for you guys to get you guys really just ready for the real world. And the real world is the pandemic world. So making sure that you're ready for that and making sure that you have the skills and the things that you need to succeed. So now we're going to move on and we're going to talk about the scholarship. So definitely really excited to give these out because everybody knows that's one of the number one reasons that people drop out of college is that they don't have the money. So being able to give students the possibility of even taking some responsibilities off their back with a scholarship is definitely a great opportunity. And we're just ready to give it out, give out that good money. This past week, it has been STS week. So we kicked it off with our social media highlights. We went through a game night and last night we worked out. And today's event obviously is the great bringing out the leaders. And tomorrow we'll be hosting a courageous conversations tomorrow from 11:30 to 1:30. And we'll also have a community service event on Saturday. So you guys should definitely check out our social media to tune into those things and to help us out, especially on Saturday. So next, I think we're going to throw it over to Jeremy for this video presentation.
Gotcha. Thank you so much, Taylor. Again, I truly enjoyed all of our panelists. Shout out to them. They did an amazing job of rocking it tonight. So again, thank you to each and every one of our panelists. We really appreciate it. But now the moment that we've all been waiting for. We're giving away $2,000 worth of scholarships, 3 scholarships, 2 inaugural scholarships this will be their first time being given away, and then our annual STS Elite Scholarship, which is $1,000. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to announce the winners. Now, they don't know that they've won, so they'll be finding out when you find out. So again, sit back. The video should take no more than 2 minutes, but we're going to announce our 3 STS Elite Scholarship recipients for this year. All right, Taylor. Those were the scholarship recipients. Again, our runner-up for the Making Excellence the Norm scholarship was none other than Miss Kimberly McDonald,
Home
and
team.
our winner, go Kim. And our winner for this is our, I think, 5th year giving out the Making Excellence the Norm scholarship. That was started by STS Elite graduate Marlena Love, but this year's recipient is Destiny Bryant. And kudos to one of our coaches, Samantha. She launched her Simply Faith Nursing Scholarship to really empower nursing students to help them navigate through life as a nursing student. And kudos to the runner-up, Kelly Henry. She's a freshman, so Kelly, we're expecting big things from you, and we're super excited about your future. But this year's winner, again, the inaugural Simply Faith Nursing Scholarship is none other than Miss Destiny Bryant. And I do want to give a shout out to Destiny. Destiny is also up for another big scholarship, and hopefully she gets that. So again, kudos to you, Destiny. We talk about securing the bag here at STS, and you're securing the bag to these scholarships. So great work to you. And then I also wanted to do a scholarship in honor to recognize young men. It was the Sean Calhoun Miller Principal, and this year's runner-up was Marcus Buchanan from the Lemoyne College. I want to make sure I put the respect on the Lemoyne College. But our inaugural winner for the Sean Calhoun Senior Miller Principal Award goes to none other than Jordan Bailey. So again, thank you all so much, and super proud of all the PIMs that applied. And but want to turn it over to our illustrious president, the great, awesome Miss Taylor Woody. And I know you got your colors on today, so again, just want to turn it back over to you.
Yes, sir. If anybody didn't know, I'm a Neo, singing in Russ Word Incorporated. So I just want to say thank you to everybody once again for coming out. Thank you for all the people that joined in. I want to tell you, get involved in STS. STS is a great place to be with like-minded individuals. They're going to give you opportunities that you're not going to find anywhere else. And if you think that you don't need them, you definitely need them. You need the interview skills. You need the networking. You need the internships, the externships. You do not know everything, so do not try to do it by yourself. STS is a family full of plenty of people with plenty of personalities, with plenty of fun, but we definitely work hard. And that's the one thing that I want to say is that we definitely work hard and we work to secure the bag. And STS was definitely instrumental in helping me secure the bag. Besides that, make sure you apply. Just go ahead and apply. It's on our website, stsenterprise.org. We're holding interviews right now. Thank you once again for giving me this opportunity to speak, Jeremy. Like I said, for the rest of the week, we have Courageous Conversations tomorrow, where we'll actually have alumni from STS, and they'll be talking about why you should join STS even further than what I've given you already. And we have our community service on Saturday. So pay attention to social media for that information. Thank you guys for coming and bringing out the leaders. 2021 pandemic version, of course. And have a good night. Bye, everybody.